Welcome to Re-Engineering the Sales Process, an introduction to the ballistics methodology. I'm Justin Rothmarsh. The ballistics approach to what we call sales process engineering holds out the potential for dramatic results. Typically, our method will increase salespeople's activity levels by an order of magnitude, from an average of 2 business development appointments a week to more than 20. Now, 10 times the volume of business development appointments won't mean 10 times the volume of sales. But it's reasonable to expect to at least double sales revenues, and that's net revenues discounted for increased operating expenses. Furthermore, you can expect our method to improve customer service, to eliminate friction between departments, and to provide management with tremendous insight and control. And that insight and control makes it easy for management to scale their sales processes. So if we claim that salespeople can and should perform at least 20 business development appointments a week, that raises an interesting question. Why don't they now? The fact is that only a small percentage of a typical salesperson's time is allocated to business development appointments. The balance is spent performing clerical and customer service tasks, assisting with fulfillment, prospecting, and engaging in social activities. A typical salesperson conducts just 2 business development appointments a week. We classify a business development appointment as a pre-scheduled appointment with an explicit business development objective, known in advance by both the salesperson and the prospective customer. Now, it's bad enough that salespeople's massive multitasking limits the time they can allocate to business development appointments, but that's not the only bad news. This multitasking results in a lumpy deal flow. This is because fulfillment and account management activities naturally take priority over business development, meaning that business development activities are performed only as a last resort. As with anyone who multitasks, salespeople are all but impossible to manage. A question about progress on activity A will almost certainly result in commentary on activities B through D. Because salespeople conduct so many disparate tasks, they struggle to perform any of them exceptionally well. This causes friction when they must integrate tightly with other organizational functions, notably fulfillment. Another byproduct of multitasking is that new salespeople take a very long time to get up to speed. Now, if you think about it, this isn't because selling is inherently complex, not when compared to engineering, for example. The problem is that salespeople have to learn how to perform numerous disparate tasks and, more significantly, how to juggle these tasks across multiple clients and multiple sales opportunities. So if this multitasking is so destructive, why is a typical sales process structured as it is? We propose that multitasking is evidence of a deeper problem. We propose that management is conflicted between pursuing 2 opposite courses of action. Both appear desirable. So rather than selecting one or the other, management equivocates between the 2. And as tends to be the case in life, equivocating between 2 opposite courses of action seldom yields a satisfactory result. On the one hand, management feels compelled to treat salespeople as autonomous agents. We encourage them to take ownership of the entire sales process, to be self-sufficient and self-directed. We tell them that we ultimately hold them responsible for results, not activities, and we like to compensate them on a pay-for-performance basis. On the other hand, management is seldom prepared to totally outsource the sales process. We need to monitor salespeople's activities, and we feel the need to exert control over behavior as well as outcomes. Consequently, we feel compelled to treat salespeople as part of the team. And when it comes to compensation, we obviously compromise by paying a mix of salary and commissions. So in practice, our salespeople are neither autonomous agents nor team members, but they're expected to perform as both. Let's take a moment to explore why we feel compelled to pursue these 2 opposite courses of action. We feel compelled to treat salespeople as autonomous agents because we believe they'll be more productive operating as such. Obviously, the productivity of a salesperson is the ratio of inputs to outputs or conversion rate. And we feel compelled to treat salespeople as team members because we need to exert management control. So if, on the one hand, we want to maximize salespeople's conversion rates, and the other we need to exert management control, what objective is serviced by both of these requirements? Well, the answer's simple. We want to maximize sales. If we can maximize conversion, we'll make more sales today, and if we exert management control, we can ensure that future sales aren't compromised in the process. But look at the diagram. These 2 requirements are driving 2 opposite courses of action. The diagram's telling us that, in order to maximize sales, we must treat salespeople as autonomous agents and treat them as part of the team. Something's clearly wrong here. The fact is, reality can never be in conflict with itself. And if it appears to be, we must take a step back and examine our assumptions. For sure, one or more of them will be flawed. In our diagram, the assumptions are represented by arrows. Let's examine each in turn. This arrow suggests that treating salespeople as autonomous agents and treating them as team members are mutually exclusive, that you can't do both at once. Now, if you think about it, that's a fair assumption. The essential difference between an autonomous agent and a team member is that the first marches to his own drum, and the second marches to the organization's drum. Unless yours is a one-person organization, autonomous agents and team members will invariably pursue different goals. Our next assumption is that in order to exercise management control, we must treat salespeople as team members, because it's only possible to exercise control over team members. Now, this is also a fair assumption. If you think about it, management operates by controlling behavior. But when you outsource a process to an autonomous agent, you sacrifice this level of control. Our next assumption concerns the relationship between management control and sales. The assumption is that a lack of control will compromise sales. That's true, isn't it? The organization consists of more than just a sales process. The sales process needs to be integrated with the fulfillment process, the new product development process, and the finance process. Poor integration will compromise sales in the long run. And the integration of the organization's parts is management's key responsibility. So let's turn our attention to the top leg of the diagram. Why do we believe that we maximize conversion by treating salespeople as autonomous agents? Well, we assume that autonomy provides the salesperson with absolute flexibility and with proximity to the coalface. The autonomous agent can fine-tune every variable that contributes to the conversion rate. Is this a robust assumption? I think you'll agree that it's not as robust as the others we've considered so far. But I'm going to suggest we leave it alone for the moment and focus our attention on the one remaining assumption. In order to maximize sales, we must maximize conversion. Why? Because conversion rate is the primary driver of sales volume. Is this true? If you're like most managers, your instinctive reaction is yes. But think about it a moment. How much upside potential is there for you to increase sales by increasing conversion rates? Let's assume that your salespeople process 10 sales opportunities a month. Perhaps they currently win 5 or 50%. Is there upside potential? Sure, there's some, but not a lot. With some training, some new objection handling techniques, your salespeople might increase their conversion rate by a point or two, but they certainly won't double it. Could they double their activity level? Certainly. I'm about to show you how a typical salesperson can increase business development activity by not 2 times, but by 10 times. So this is the assumption we challenge at Ballistics. We argue that in most organizations, conversion is not the primary driver of sales. Of course, with that assumption vaporized, the requirement to manage conversion disappears, along with the need to treat salespeople as autonomous agents. Our realization that conversion is not the primary driver of sales leads us to a new objective for the sales process: maximize opportunity flow while maintaining conversion within its optimal range. Note that this is the exact inverse of the objective of most sales processes. In most organizations, the goal is to maximize conversion rate, and maintenance of opportunity flow is a necessary condition. Now we're suggesting that the maximization of opportunity flow should be the goal, and conversion the necessary condition. Now, if we substitute the words opportunity flow for volume, and conversion rate for quality, we'll make a startling discovery. We'll realize that the change of focus we're suggesting is exactly the change of focus that has enabled enterprise to shift from cottage industry to modern manufacturing over the last couple of 100 years. If you imagine a pre-industrial revolution manufacturer, an artisan, this person's focus was on maximizing quality. Volume was the necessary condition. However, in a modern manufacturing plant, volume is the goal, and quality has to be maintained within an acceptable range. This comparison is important because we're going to use lessons learned by manufacturing over the last couple of 100 years to re-engineer our sales process. But before we do that, we must pause for a moment and consider what we'll call the artisan's dilemma. Imagine that you could travel back in time and offer to show an artisan, a cobbler perhaps, how to increase his production volume by, say, 100 times. Assuming he had a market for that many shoes, he might initially be enthusiastic, but almost certainly he'd soon come to his senses and expose the flaw in your plan. He'd point out that if he increased production volume by 100 times, quality would be severely compromised. His dilemma is this: an increase in volume is good, but if it comes at the expense of a decrease in quality, then that's bad. So ask yourself, is the artisan correct? Are volume and quality mutually exclusive? Well, the answer, as the history of industry suggests, is no. Production quality is the measure of a manufactured product's compliance with specifications. In other words, in measuring quality, we ask, how similar is the manufactured product to the designer's prototype? With this definition in mind, the relationship between quality and volume becomes clearer. Quality is a prerequisite for volume. In other words, in order to increase significantly production volume, you must eliminate production variability. If quality is a prerequisite of volume, the two cannot possibly be mutually exclusive. This is why over the last 200 years, production volume and quality have risen together in lockstep. When salespeople are first exposed to the ballistics method, they will frequently cite a variation of the artisan's dilemma. They'll caution you that a major increase in opportunity flow will surely come at the expense of their conversion rate. Well, now you know how to respond. With the artisan's dilemma dispensed with, it's time to apply lessons learned from manufacturing to the sales process. Remember, our goal is to increase opportunity flow and to increase it significantly. Imagine that you are back talking to the cobbler we mentioned a moment ago, dispensing advice on how to increase his production volume. What would you recommend he do first? Your first recommendation would be that he standardize his production process, that he uses exactly the same sequence of activities to manufacture each pair of shoes. Now, it's important to note that this first step will not, in and of itself, result in an improvement in production volume. In fact, if you change nothing else, the cobbler may actually become less productive when he doggedly complies with standardization. Standardization is important because it's an essential prerequisite for your next recommendation. Next, you'll advise the cobbler to apply division of labor or specialization. Tasks should be grouped by type and performed by specialists. Obviously, as Adam Smith pointed out, division of labor is the cause of the most dramatic increase in productivity the human race has experienced over the last couple of hundred years. But this is not the last recommendation you're going to make, is it? If our cobbler standardizes and then applies division of labor and ends his re-engineering efforts there, what will the result be? Chaos. In the absence of a means to synchronize the performance of these specialists, chaos will reign. Obviously, left to their own devices, different specialists will work at different rates. It's at this point, and for this reason, that our cobbler develops a requirement for management. And management's primary function is scheduling, or the synchronization of resources. A scheduling function is required in any environment where division of labor is applied. A manufacturing plant has a master scheduler, a product environment has a project manager, and an orchestra has a conductor. These three steps will help our cobbler multiply his production, and these three steps can now be applied to our sales process to multiply opportunity flow. Our first step is to standardize the sales process. This requires us to map the sequence of activities required to convert inputs into outputs. The output of the sales process is obviously sales, and the input is whatever resources are required in order to generate sales. Let's refer to these resources as promotional expenditure. What then are the activities required to convert promotional expenditure into sales? We can begin by dividing the sales process into two activities, promotion and opportunity management. Promotion is the generation of sales opportunities, and opportunity management is the sequence of tasks required to convert opportunities into sales. Obviously, each of these activities is a process in and of itself. Certainly in a major account selling situation, opportunities are mini projects, each containing a network of tasks and milestones. In such a situation, opportunities should be managed using project management principles. So let's dig a little deeper into promotion. What are the specific activities required to manufacture sales opportunities? At Ballistics, we advocate a simple two-step approach to promotion. The first is to build a database of what we call relationships. There are three types of individuals with whom we're interested in acquiring relationships: customers, potential customers, and centers of influence. The latter are individuals who may never be customers, but who have the potential to influence others who might. A relationship is characterized by two essentials. First, you have the individual's contact information on your database, and second, the individual perceives your firm to be the thought leader in your field. Typically, these relationships are acquired by using advertising or direct mail campaigns to exchange a white paper or briefing document of some kind for respondents' contact information. Because packaged information has a high perceived value and a low distribution cost, and because individuals respond readily to this kind of offer, Relationship acquisition is simple, effective, and sustainable. Of course, the purpose of promotion is to generate sales opportunities, and a relationship isn't a sales opportunity. Accordingly, the next step in our process is what we call relationship management. The purpose of relationship management is to convert over time relationships into sales opportunities. In our experience, the most efficient way to do this is to conduct events. Events take many forms: seminars, workshops, factory tours, briefings, and so on. But to be successful, events should follow a simple formula. They should present a best practice methodology. The same method expanded in the white paper mentioned previously. Attendees should be encouraged to request an appointment where typically a high-level gap analysis will be conducted. You can read more about the ballistics approach to sales process design on our website. Obviously there are other approaches, but the critical point is this. The sales process must be an explicit process. It must contain a sequence of activities, and the output of each must be objectively quantifiable. Approaches to marketing where promotion is not treated as part of the sales process, and where metrics include unmeasurable quantities such as brand equity, fail this simple test. Once we have standardized the sales process, the next step is to apply division of labor. Our approach is to divide the tasks currently performed by salespeople into 4 general categories. We've already discussed our approach to promotion. While it's possible for salespeople to generate opportunities, promotion or prospecting is resource intensive, generating a poor return on salespeople's time. We make opportunity generation the responsibility of dedicated promotional resources. Obviously, the many clerical tasks salespeople perform can and should be allocated to clerical people. These include data entry, literature fulfillment, appointment setting, report generation, the generation of simple proposals, and so on. Typically, salespeople perform many technical and fulfillment-related tasks. We allocate these tasks to a technical team. This team takes responsibility for high-end solution design, project management, and telephone-based account management. In most cases, we shift account management from the field to the telephone. Telephone-based account managers are more productive than field-based people. But more importantly, because of their proximity to production, they can, in most cases, deliver better customer service. Once we've relieved salespeople of all these tasks, salespeople are left with a responsibility for just one task: business development appointments. Obviously, this is the task that generates the greatest return on salespeople's limited capacity. Oh, and where social activities are concerned, unless we can quantify the value added by these activities, we eliminate them. After all, that's what evenings and weekends are for. So we've standardized the sales process. We've applied division of labor. We must now add the critical scheduling function. The person in our process responsible for scheduling is the sales coordinator. The sales coordinator's role is very similar to that of a personal assistant to a C-level executive. The sales coordinator owns the salesperson's diary and performs all clerical tasks associated with the opportunity management process. This frees the salesperson to perform appointment after appointment, 5 a day, 5 days a week, phoning in the results of each appointment to the sales coordinator, who does all data entry and report generation. The sales coordinator is also responsible for ensuring that the technical team delivers any tasks associated with the opportunity management process. In our experience, the sales coordinator can manage 1 salesperson, sometimes 2, but never 3. It's important to remember that the sales coordinator is the critical resource that enables management to increase salespeople's business development activity by an order of magnitude. Certainly, it's cheaper to add 1 sales coordinator per salesperson than it is to add another 9 salespeople. With a critical scheduling function in place, we can now ensure that the salesperson is fully utilized. Upstream from the sales coordinator, we maintain an inventory of sales opportunities, what we call an opportunity buffer. The opportunities in this buffer are automatically sorted based upon the yield each is expected to generate from a unit of the salesperson's time. The sales coordinator draws opportunities from this buffer and allocates them to the salesperson's diary. The creation and maintenance of the opportunity buffer is the responsibility of the promotional coordinator. The promotional coordinator is responsible for coordinating the promotional activities we discussed earlier, relationship acquisition and relationship management. It's important that opportunities in the buffer have either explicitly requested an appointment, perhaps as a result of attending an event, or that they have an elevated interest in our services. The sales coordinator is responsible for scheduling sales opportunities, not for generating them. So we've standardized the sales process, we've applied division of labor, and we've added a scheduling function. We're now ready to exploit the benefits of a formal approach to process. We can take measurements. We can manage, and ultimately we can scale our new sales process. To simplify measurement and management, we use run charts. A run chart is a graph of activity over time. We choose a measurement that indicates the contribution that each resource is making to the process as a whole, and then we graph these measurements. For the promotional coordinator, we graph buffer size as a percentage of optimal. We want the opportunity buffer to be large enough to ensure that the sales coordinator always has opportunities to schedule, but no larger. For the sales coordinator, we graph forward book days, again as a percentage of optimal. We want the sales coordinator to ensure that the salesperson always has enough forward booked appointments to ensure that no appointment slot goes unfilled. Again, we don't want the salesperson to be forward booked any more than this. For the salesperson, we graph throughput, which is roughly equivalent to gross profit, over appointment slots consumed. In other words, we graph the yield generated by the salesperson on the appointments scheduled into his or her diary. Each of these resources endeavors to maintain each of these measurements within reasonable limits. Where salespeople are concerned, we will often plot the performance of individual salespeople over the average for the team. In all cases, management's primary focus should be on establishing consistent performance. Even where salespeople are concerned, we must be careful to avoid those initiatives that increase output at the expense of increased variability. Such initiatives include sales promotions, monthly quotas, and of course performance pay. Once the process is operating in a state of statistical control, it can be readily scaled by adding salespeople, and of course by adding sufficient resources to maintain buffer size and forward book days within their acceptable ranges. It should be obvious that the ballistics approach to the sales process will increase sales. After all, salespeople's volume of business development appointments has just increased by 10 times. In practice, however, this does not come at the expense of a significant increase in operating expenses. This is because most organizations transfer those salespeople who are more likely to be comfortable in technical or account management roles into these roles, leaving a smaller number of salespeople to be supported by sales and promotional coordinators. A 10 times increase in the volume of business development appointments brings another benefit. Increased opportunity flow will result in a dramatic reduction in opportunity cycle time. This is exciting because opportunity cycle time is a key influencer of conversion rate. The elimination of multitasking inevitably results in team members being happier in their roles. The fact is, salespeople don't enjoy prospecting and paperwork, and technical people don't exactly relish the pressure to win new accounts. A more obvious benefit is that our process puts management in a position where it can actually manage, in a formal sense of the word. And of course, once management can manage, the sales process can be scaled with confidence. So what can you do next? For a start, you can visit the Ballistics website to purchase a copy of my book, Re-Engineering the Sales Process. Or if you live in Australia or the USA, you might like to attend one of our popular executive roundtables. These are half-day workshops. Alternatively, if you visit our website, you can subscribe to an online forum, an email discussion list. Or better still, you might like to get a copy of my book or an event ticket free of charge. We'd love to gift you a copy of my book or a ticket to an executive roundtable. You get to choose which.